All right, so welcome to another episode of Scale Up Soundbites. Today, we are so excited to have our guest, Kencevski. Have I said that right, mate?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So I was a bit nervous about it, man. I remember the first time I chatted to you, it was just like Ken. Ken is the owner and founder of a software consulting company, Devika, based in Wollongong. I've got such a soft spot in my heart for any company that comes out of the Gong. I studied down there, lived down there for a few years. I love it. And I'm seeing such a great tech scene emerge from there. But yeah, just some great stuff of what you guys have been doing recently. Been on for about 7 years now.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that post recently. So yeah, super exciting. You guys have grown, doing some really good stuff with some great clients and launching some incredible new products that I can't wait to get stuck into and talk about today, mate. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about you and about Devika and how it came to fruition.
Yeah, definitely. Before I start, I want to thank you for having me on.
Mate, thank you. Yeah.
It's my first podcast, so hopefully it goes all right. So founder and managing director at Devika. We're a tech company, so we build everything from websites, mobile apps, all the way to VR and AR applications. We're around 7.5 years old, and been lucky enough to work with, the high end of town with corporates like Westpac, St. George, some international names like Intel, and then some others in government like Transport New South Wales and universities. But our real sweet spot is working closely with startups. So actually getting in that early stage, getting to understand what it is that they're looking to build. Sometimes it's just an idea, a concept, and then we assemble a team to do the planning and design. Sometimes that might already be done, and we help to go on and build it. And in more than one way, we do just more than the tech. We're part of putting a team together to help with the processes, the people, the technology aspects of it. And over the years, we've also grown out to have a venture arm which co-invests and gives that tech assurance when it comes to building out these products and going live. So,
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've done the development space, the consulting space for these partners, but you also got a venture arm as well now.
Yep.
And you've also got launched a new product as well.
Yeah. So part of that venture arm was, what we ended up doing was probably around 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to really, as a company, specialize in a tech stack. So when you first start, you're just starting the company out, and you're taking all these different gigs, and you're inheriting a lot of other people's work and people that have probably spent a lot of time and money trying to get a product live, and don't necessarily want to start from scratch.
Yep.
So we would inherit a lot of that and help get them live. And we did that for a couple of years. But as a tech company and as an agency, we found it really hard to manage all these different tech stacks. So, you might be using Kotlin and Swift for native, or sometimes React, or it might be .NET backend,
yep,
or Java Spring Boot, or Node.js, and the different infrastructure providers. Having a team that specialized in all those different tech stacks and areas was really difficult.
Sure.
So we decided to really specialize and kind of do the Jerry Maguire moment of like, we're going in this direction, and our clients and staff are coming with us. And for us that was we felt like JavaScript was a really good bet. So we've stuck to JavaScript being React Native, React JS, and Node.js.
Yeah.
All of it's TypeScript, so it's all structured, and then we use cloud native infrastructure. So we're really big on serverless, and all of it sits on AWS. So we're AWS house. When we look at building out these products, we now have a very well-rounded team that just specializes in full stack development, but in that JavaScript space. So if someone needs to jump in and do something for the front end web, or there's another sprint that requires focus on the native mobile app, they're able to do it.
Yep.
There's definitely people in the team that specialize in different areas and enjoy different areas, but from a contingency point of view, anyone can do any part of any system thanks to that decision.
Yep.
Then what came about after that was, you know, we were building, you know, at the moment we build and launch a product every month. Back then it might have been every 2 months. But that was enough for us to start looking at a bit of a boilerplate. So a foundation that was really consistent, that used all the mandatory aspects of building, you know, a digital product that really needed to scale and give us control and flexibility to adapt to the client's needs. And for us, that was baseline. So we built the product baseline. We used it for probably 15, 20 clients before we really thought it was time to productize it. And we spent the last 12 months productizing it. And now it's its own business and entity.
Yeah, fantastic.
And what I mean by productization is that, you know, baseline gives you like 3 to 6 months of software development out of the box. So things that used to take us 3 or 6 months, we also had to charge back in the day for that 3 or 6 months. Now, you know, it's a one-off fee or a nominal, you know, couple $100 a month subscription that can turn into a perpetual license. And you know, from day zero, you're getting all that out of the box. And for us, you know, we tapped into a lot of different advisors as well. So CIOs from, you know, universities, from government, CTOs in the private sector, head of engineering from private sectors to really, you know, help us with putting this together. So it wasn't just like siloed. It was a collaborative approach with a bunch of industry experts. And then in the last 12 months, by productizing it, we got it approved by AWS as a product. So it's a ISV, which is an independent software vendor, which means that, you know, anyone can go on the marketplace and purchase it and deploy it straight to their AWS account and start their digital product journey off the back of it. So that's been the journey. Where in the earlier days, you know, with 3 months was cut down to like 1 day. And now it's, you know, cut down to like a couple minutes where you just deploy it and start building a digital product.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like a so hence the name baseline. You start with baseline, bang, produces it straight away from get-go. Yeah, I mean, when you told me about it first, I couldn't believe it was like one of those things that not many people, like it hadn't been sort of launched yet and utilized yet, that are all, and if so, like why I haven't heard of it. So yeah, it sounds like a great thing. Have you had much success with new clients and stuff like that, or existing clients wanting to use it? Yeah,
totally. So we, you know, being around for just long enough, we've seen some really cool stuff where you know, we have we have founders that are on their third journey with us. So, you know, we're part of that first journey of like inheriting this stuff, building it out, getting to market, looking after their product, allowing them to go in-house, and then one of the founders then going on to their second venture, exiting that company, and then using Baseline for that venture. And then, you know, and then same thing, 18 months later, she's exited from that company and looking to do this third time around where we're looking to use Baseline to build out her next product.
Fantastic.
So for her, it's like, you know, the thing is, we work with people, you know, there's sometimes a misconception. A lot of the time people come to us and say, oh, look, I'm not technical. And I always say, you know, with our agency, no one's technical. Everyone that comes to us is someone that's a subject matter expert in their field, you know, whether it be nutrition or health or recruitment or whatever it may be. And then it's our job to really build out a solution and get it going. So I'm sure if you asked her what Baseline was, she probably had no idea. But she knows that it's the foundation of the products that we've built, and it gives her that you know, that peace of mind as well. And when we talk about exits, like we have some that, you know, I can't mention who, but they're a top 20 ASX listed company that are looking to purchase one of the companies, and an agreement was signed, and, you know, DD was done, and being able to have, you know, that process of doing that due diligence, which is pretty rigorous, and you know, they really come down into the nuts and bolts of like how things were built and why were they built that way, and being able to have a solution that not only ticked all their boxes and allowed that startup to sign for that exit. You know, they're looking for us to continue working with them once they purchase the startup as well. So I think that's been like another really interesting journey for us as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's kind of won you more business.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, now at the moment we work really closely with partners. So we're very partner driven. We don't, to date, we don't really do much, we've really done no marketing. It's all been word of mouth. And that's both from a client perspective, but also from a partners network. So, AWS and Stripe are really strong. They're really strong. We're strong partners with them.
All right. Okay.
But we've done many integrations with like Salesforce and HubSpot, and Baseline's starting to get a bit of a reputation in that partner network. And someone in HubSpot Singapore is really interested in becoming a partner now. So yeah, we only really launched Baseline this financial year, so it's only been probably 8 weeks, 9 weeks. So yeah, that's been pretty positive. And going direct to product teams as well has been really interesting. But we've had a really good feedback.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, all right. I want to circle back to the start.
Sorry.
No. That's all good. That's all good. We'll talk more about Baseline because it sounds like a fascinating product. But yeah, let's go back to the start of the evolution of Devika. Why did you even start it? What sort of triggered?
Yeah. So so when you said Wollongong, I studied at Wollongong University, and then
the best uni out there. Big plug.
Yeah, it's a really strong, computer science and IT degree and faculty. So, hence the reason why all our software development team is in Wollongong. It's a really strong community and a really strong faculty. So we've been really lucky for that. I went to university. And then after that, was looking to get a job somewhere, and was had a few offers, but I went and worked for my family business. So it was like conventional but unconventional in that they specialize in high performance car parts. So nothing to do with tech. Actually, was a very manual pen and paper. It was a business to business operation. So you might get a pallet of products and send them to someone. So I saw that opportunity to kind of go, well, I could go there and do a digital transformation, get involved in being able to implement software. Being a family business, they probably wouldn't have trusted anyone else to do it.
Yeah, sure.
So being their son, I had a fair bit of autonomy to do what I feel like. And, but your parents being your boss has other pros and cons as well.
Sure.
And then implemented SAP, and so the first 12 months was all about understanding what the business needs are, planning out what that system will look like. Our business goals was to go to end consumer, B2C. So built out the software and the infrastructure around SAP and e-commerce and all that kind of jazz. It was probably, it was like a 3-year process. It was like 12 months of planning and design, 12 months of implementation in Australia, and then another 12 months of implementing in America. We have really big warehouse and presence in America.
Yeah, right.
And after we did all that and built a small team around the tech and marketing, we were like online, top online retailers in Australia, and we're winning all these different awards. And it was quite a journey. And at that stage, I was starting to get exposure to startups and VCs. Like VCs would come to us and say, "Would you want to invest in startups?" And I always found it really fascinating because like startups were wanting to solve these really unique problems, and they usually needed tech and money. And at a family business, we had tech and we had money. So I was like really drawn towards seeing how we could use our infrastructure to go and pursue that space. And just getting exposed to it really got me excited, and then decided to go to TechCrunch Disrupt in Silicon Valley. See what was happening in that space, and that was like 2015, I think. And the big takeaway for me was I saw lucky enough where there was a company actually called Meta, not Facebook. There was another Meta, and they were one of the co-founders was studying at University of Wollongong. And they were building these AR headsets, pretty early on. And I was lucky enough to actually get a bit of a tour. They had a whole bunch of Wollongong software engineers there.
Oh, fantastic!
Knew a bunch of people there. So I was lucky enough to
get. This is in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. They had this house that was like up on the hill. It was massive.
Wow.
I think it was the architect from the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was
his house.
yeah, his house. Yeah. It was phenomenal, and weren't really allowed to take photos or anything.
Okay.
So I was able to see what they were doing, and the headsets were really big and clunky, but I was really fascinated. I thought, at the family business, going online was a digital transformation.
Sure.
And then going from the browser to mobile phone, which sounds ridiculous, was actually a really big transformation as well.
Yep.
And that's where we won a lot of market share online, was because we were mobile already when iPhones were, well, not iPhones, but like marketplaces were starting to blow up, like eBay, and Amazon and Google Shopping and all that. So we were ready for that. And going to Silicon Valley and seeing where AR headsets were at, I thought that could be the next user interface. Like, so where's that heading? Where's VR heading? Where's voice? All of these are, UIs. And it was like, where are they heading and how are we going to keep ahead of that? So I found that was really fascinating. So I was like, definitely want to come back and look into AR a lot more and where it was heading. And then the other part was there was a lot of Teslas everywhere. There was electric cars.
Really?
And I was just fascinated because I was like, hey, I'm working for a company that's building combustion engines. And and at the time, and even now, you're a bit of a greenie, and you're like, these are non-renewable, energy. So how are we going to move towards using more electric? That was a bit of a moment where I thought maybe in 10 years' time, the family business will be less relevant.
Yep.
And I was only like 25 at the time, so I thought, by 35, I could be pretty irrelevant. Yeah. So I thought, how do I come back and look at AR and look at where electric cars are heading and apply that to the family business? Coming back and having that conversation with the family was like having a paddle and trying to shift the course of the Titanic, right?
Yeah, right. I can imagine. Yeah.
It's something that they've been doing for 30 years.
Of course, it works now. We're making bank. Yeah. We don't need to change. Yeah.
And, the business was growing.
Yeah, and you've just done this digital transformation as well. Now you're saying, we want to put VR in here. Whoa.
Yeah. I was like, well, we bet it all on red. Let's do it again, and they were like, no, this is just fine. Thanks. Yep. And I thought, well, I didn't really want someone telling me what to do with my future. So I thought, this is probably not for me. So went out and started my own business. And at the time, I didn't even know what we were going to do. Just went and started talking to my network and just, started working on a bunch of web and mobile applications. Being in the e-commerce space, I really understood that well.
Sure.
But very quickly moved away from that traditional e-commerce and more into like digital products that that startups and companies are trying to build. So I think that digital transformation was really fascinating, and decided to go out on my own.
Yep. Okay.
But the family business is still a client, so that's good.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Still kept it in the family. Yeah. So I'm assuming that was your first client.
Yep. Yeah, that was the first client. Yeah.
Was it just you to begin with? Yeah.
So it was same thing. I thought, I don't really want to be told what to do, so I didn't really want to get any investors on board. So I thought, I've got to really work hard to figure out how to make this a sustainable business, and that has been at the core from day one.
Yeah, so, sure.
Yeah, I don't really have, I don't have a business partner, solo founder for Devika, and also no investors. So sometimes I do say it is a little bit of a dictatorship. If I say I want something, if we want to do something, we do it, but as a joke. But yeah, the reality is that we, if we decide to do something, it's we have that flexibility.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Look, what I wanted to go to next was, why the name? How'd you come up with it, Devika?
Yeah, so
it seems interesting, and we've got being in IT is a big Indian community, so like Devika is such a popular name for female people in India. So
yeah, it was one of those things where I really wanted it to be 6 characters, so I could get a number plate.
Yes.
I just wanted it to be 6 characters. Didn't want it lot of startups, a bit like Baseline, have two words together. So I was like, want to stay away from that. And you know, especially at the time, and still, like I'm a pretty big Richard Branson fan. So thinking that through, I've got a Macedonian background, and Virgin in Macedonian is actually Devita. Devica. And I thought, oh, it's a little bit difficult, so we'll just change it to a K. Managed to get the .com.au, and then that was like pretty early on before I really was going to go out on my own.
So Devisa.
Devita, yeah.
Sorry,
He's Balkan. Is a for Virgin, which is like Richard Branson's company.
Fantastic.
And then changed it to a K. Had the word dev in there. There was different variations of it, and thought, well, we're going to be software developers, so it's got the word dev in there. And it wasn't until like a year of like actually going into business that I realized it was an Indian, very prominent or very important Indian name, and there's a goddess, and it's actually quite an important name in India, and that's where Devika.com was taken, and for 12 to 18 months I tried really hard to get that name, and finally managed to get it. So we had to pay for it, but we were all in, and it's been Devika ever since.
All right, cool. No, that's fantastic. How about the culture at Devika? So being a solo founder, I think it's probably, as you grow and change, and as every business does, how's the culture evolved, and what do you go about doing in fostering that culture? And we're just talking about like the day-to-day. We can talk about both, like how the business operates, but also like the software engineering side of things as well, and best practices as well. Yeah,
totally. So culture is really important. Something I always say to clients is, we're really busy, and it's harder to get really good employees than it is to get clients. So our focus is more on our employees than sometimes our clients. I think it's really important to put them first. So we've spent a lot of time in really getting to understand what it's like to grow out some of these teams. We do have advisors that have been through that and been able to like give us advice around some of the landmines of growing a team. There was a stage there where we went from like 3 to 13 people in a matter of like less than 12 months. So for us, that was it wasn't like we were given this cash and we had to grow the team out. It was there's a lot of word of mouth, a lot of products that we were looking to build out, and putting a person a month is like I said, we had 3 people, and that went to 6 in a matter of like almost a month. So that's nearly half the culture, getting diluted with new people. So through that journey, we really looked at what worked and what didn't work. So for us, hiring in a bit of a sequence is really important. So what we do is we like teams of 4. So we tend to do 1 senior, 2 mid, and 1 junior. And we tend to hire in that order as well. So what we find is that for us, the definition of someone that's a mid software developer is someone that can work independently. So if those people can be told what to do and work independently, then it allows a senior the freedom to like do all the planning and designing, and also the delivery management, and then the senior can spend a bunch of time with the junior to upskill. And I think that's really important, because if you do things sometimes backwards, like a junior, a mid, and then you get a senior later, it can create a lot of inefficiencies and chaos, and doing it in that order, the culture, I feel it keeps the culture. So you spend a lot of time with senior software developers or delivery managers, and then being able to foster another mid, and then another mid, and then a junior developer, I think is really important. So from the efficiency, operational efficiency and chaos, that's worked really, really well for us. We do like events on Fridays as well. So like we would get like different partners. Like we're a HP ISV, so HP's come down, HTC, Dell. We've had Salesforce, we've had AWS, guys from Atlassian, and all different walks of life that are in the tech space, especially if they're living in Wollongong as well. They'll come past and sometimes work out of our office on a Friday, do a talk. Like this Friday, we have someone from Salesforce coming in and doing a bit of a demo and more like a workshop for. And so that's really important, that training. We're working really closely with partners as well. We, with AWS, we're only small, so pretty much all of our software developers need to be certified in order for us to keep our AWS partnerships level. So that's really important. So, training and learning and development with AWS content and especially our other partners is always really important. And then I guess for us, things coming a little bit more back to normal after COVID, we're looking at, what can we do around the workplace to improve, people's work-life balance and, people allowed to work from home whenever they like. We do have a culture that's more steered towards being in the office as well. I think it's really important for the work that we do and how we do it, that there is in-person time, but people do have their own flexibility to work from home. But a big part of that was, we've just committed to a new office space, and part of that space will have there's a pool and a gym and open community areas for like barbecues and stuff like that. And I think that's really important. So looking at that work-life balance and providing, some of these things, which me personally, I'm pretty active, so I'm pretty passionate about them anyway. And getting the team out of their skin, it's for some of them, and for other of them, they're more active than I am. So it works really well. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I think so. What I sort of picked up there, and it sounds like when you're bringing in talent to the business, you look at it as a balanced sort of hire. That sort of keeps that culture. So you're never ever too top heavy or bottom heavy, allowing you to allocate resources to specific projects when they sort of come up. And as that's probably evolving as you grow, you've got that sort of arsenal in your team to do that. What happens as you evolve, like as you? So I guess like the idea of any business is to grow from juniors to mids to seniors. So how do you do that? Like you talked about learning and development being a big thing there. Like what sort of practices do you guys have in place?
So for us, everyone's learning and development is pretty unique to them. So we like to put a bit of a plan together for each person, and understand where do they want to head. So in some areas, if we're building digital products in that planning and design phase, that can be very subjective. So, someone comes to you with a problem, and there's a lot of ways to solve that problem. So we have someone in the team that's put their hand up to do more of that. And what we tend to do is it's a lot of shadowing. So the same way in software development, you have, what do you call it? Peer programming. Pair programming. The same way you have pair programming, it's like we have paired, an allocation for that person to sit in with someone else and watch them do the planning and design phase, and maybe do that for 2 or 3 months, and then slowly allow them to maybe run some meetings. That literally just happened yesterday, where we said, look, you've progressed a fair bit. How about you run the next meeting? Give it a go, and see how you go. So, but I think what's really important is setting up an environment where people can succeed. So it's not just like putting someone in and saying, in 6 months' time, I want you to be independent, and letting them and giving them something that's really difficult to do. It's like, how do we get you there? How do we give you small little features or tasks, and how do you work independently through them, and then move towards, maybe building out a feature or planning out a feature independently. On the development side, there's, code can't get pushed without a pull request and a review. So that review can be really, it's very candid feedback. And I think the good part about software development is that those pull requests happen every day. So every day you've got a finger on the pulse on how to improve. And I think that's really important. Sometimes running a business, you might make a decision and it takes you months to get feedback on whether that was a good or bad decision. Whereas with the software developers, we've definitely noticed that as the team's grown, just how quickly that learning curve gets filled up.
Yep.
Compared to when we first started,
Yep.
when it was like one or two people to turn to, and they, you're figuring it out together. Compared to having people that have been part of building and launching products every month.
Yep.
I think another important part is, like, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of the staff stay for a while.
Yeah.
So that knowledge has stayed within the company. So, our first hire, he is the head of product and services. He's the 2 ICs. So he's been around, pretty much since I started. And, since we started to scale up in that year 2 or 3, we've had people stay with us for like the last 4 or 5 years. So we've been very, very fortunate where they've been through enough to really understand it. So when someone new comes in, they can, pass on that knowledge.
What do you attribute to contributing to that high level of retention within the business?
I think what I found was, we've had software developers that have gone and worked for specific products before. And I think what tends to happen is, even at bigger companies, you're a cog in the wheel. You have to work within those confinements. For us, we can't do that. Like, for us, it's, you get exposed to the full spectrum, to the full end-to-end process. And then there's a level of expectation that when you're, a mid or a senior developer, that you are able to build something with a team end to end and deploy it, and go live. So if anything, we have the expectation that you're willing to do more, rather than having the expectation of, we just want you to do this one little thing, if we can, unless we can get someone else to do it, you're going to keep doing it. So I think that's, I've had people that have worked at product teams that come and start, and they said, "Oh, am I allowed to do this?" And it's like, yeah, of course you are. It's actually expected. So I think that's been really probably liberating for some of the software developers. I think the other part is that we don't context switch a lot. So what I mean by that is, if a project comes in, most projects are around 3 or 4 months to build. A lot of time, about 3 months. So a person will work on that project for 3-4 months, and then they might go on to another project. So it's not like we don't have. We're lucky enough where we don't have an environment where we're doing all these little things, and week by week you're on a different client every week. We don't have that. We're lucky enough where it's like, okay, these are the products that we're building. These are projects, and you're going to work on it for the next 3 or 4 months. But also after that 3 or 4 months, you have the liberty to move on to something else. So I think that's what keeps people fresh. Like they really enjoy it. Something comes in, and today it's recruitment, and then tomorrow it's hospitality, and then the next day it's health and fitness. And then I think that's what keeps it really fresh for everyone. I think the other part is, in the tech space, there's this thing called tech debt.
Technical debt.
So when you build something, especially when you're moving quickly, some things sometimes aren't built that great.
Sure.
So the beauty is that, our learning curves are so quick that I feel like our tech debt is very low.
Okay.
And the beauty is that, this sounds terrible, but even if it was really high, we give it to someone else, we give it back to the founder, to the company, and they take it in-house. And we're off to a new clean slate, and we use all that learnings for the new project. We don't, like I said, in the earlier days, we would inherit people's tech debt. Where now we don't. We have a clean slate.
So you're looking for those greenfield projects as opposed to the problem solving. I get you. So
that's been, I think there are like 2 or 3 factors that keep it really,
it's definitely a certain mentality of people who work in like the software consulting space that I find. It's either you want to do it, you want to be exposed to that new projects all the time throughout your career, that you like and you get exhilarated by that, like that drives you, or you're the opposite, or you may have done that for a bit and you're like, look, I just want to focus on one product for like an extended period of time. And I also find that some places do it better than others. So like when you've got an environment that doesn't foster that creativity and learning and development, that just expect you to sort of churn and burn, you can burn out in a consultancy or an agency environment a
Yeah,
lot.
and the other part too is even though we build so many new projects, a lot of them stay with us.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
and we look after them. You know, a lot of them are a 3 or 4 year journey as well.
Yeah.
In some cases, same thing. Like one of our first greenfield projects is still with us, like 5-6 years later. So yeah, we're still able to keep things fresh, which is good. So even though we are the tech department, we are the software development house for that startup or scale up, we are internally able to keep things pretty fresh. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. We talked about when we chatted the other week when we called up for a coffee about like talent density at Devika. And you mentioned like similar to that of a football team.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, you know, I guess when you're building and starting a startup or a scale up, that it's always about how you're going to scale your company. And at core, we're a services company. Yeah. So really quickly we were like, okay, do we want to scale out this company? What do we want that to look and feel like? And for us, we've made the conscious decision, you know, strategically to say, well, you know, we have something like Baseline where we built it and we're looking to scale that out. And we think that could grow into something really big in the future. Whereas as a agency, we were like, how do we keep this, you know, we don't want to be the biggest, but we want to be the best. Yeah. And how do we become the best? And we thought, you know, how do we work as teams of 4 and maybe, you know, limit it to like 24 or 28 software developers? And, you know, the analogy of like a soccer team, how do we have, you know, the best starting 11? So rather than having, you know, 3 reserve teams and being as big as we can, how do we get the top 11 you know, soccer players or software developers to actually be, you know, under one roof and building out these products? And then that way, when someone has a very audacious goal of building, you know, a startup or a scale up, you know, they're able to tap into that. And a big thing that I always say too is that, you know, a lot of founders might have 1 or 2 or 3 software developers, and then, you know, they're 2 or 3 months in and they don't really have the product that they want. I always say, you know, it's like building a house and getting, you know, 2 or 3 carpenters to build it out. When you come to us, it's like we assemble the team. It's a team that's worked together, that's won championships. You know, we've got companies, you know, we've built apps that have been number 1 on the App Store. We've built apps that are doing tens of millions of dollars in revenue and worth hundreds of millions in valuation. And we're still solely responsible for those products. You know, and this is all under one roof with a very, you know, small software development team. And I think, you know, we have a bit of that analogy. And same thing, you know, we have, you know, a business coach or consultant that helps with people's, you know, career progressions. And a comment that I made to him the other day was, you know, it's not about me being Michael Jordan. It's about me being, you know, like being his coach. So, you know, actually understanding what it is to drive a team forward and have those goals and vision for them to be able to perform at their best. And part and parcel is, you know, that strategy on how we hire and how we retain and how we train and same thing now with the new office. What we're looking to implement to keep everyone, you know, firing from all cylinders and really enjoying working for us.
Yeah, sure. Talking about like the hiring part, being a tech recruiter, it'd be pretty silly for me to avoid that. How do you think, or what processes do you attribute to the success of hiring and building that talent density at Devika?
So I always do the first interview. I really like to get to know the person, what it is that they're looking for. If they're highlighting, you know, I like to ask what it is that they didn't like about their previous employment or employers, and sometimes that's only because I might not be able to solve that problem for them either. So we might not be the right fit. So really making sure that culturally they're the right fit for what we want and what we're trying to achieve.
Find out what didn't work before.
Same thing with a client. You know, when they say, "Oh, we went to this software development company and they were crap." Okay, tell me why they were crap. And it was like A, B, C, and then it's like, well, I don't think we can solve that. Sometimes they say, oh, they didn't give us a lot of transparency. Well, unless you know how to read code, I don't know how anyway.
What's the transparency actually look like?
Yeah.
Sure.
What does transparency look? What would you expect? So I think that's really important. And then there's like a second and third interview with like the head of product and service, and then head of engineering after that. And then it becomes more and more technical. So that's usually where I step out.
Yep.
And then they do a few, there's like a 30-minute take-home assessment. And then they present it, explain why they did what they did. So actually the code itself is probably 25% of the marking criteria. Most of it is their thought process.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
what, if they said they did something, did that actually come through in what they were presenting? And then I guess as an employer, it allows me to know where their skill sets are, and then I understand where their salary package would sit.
Yeah, okay. So cultural first.
Yeah.
Technical assessment.
Yep.
Take home.
Yeah.
Then another interview,
Yep.
and then potentially a third.
Yep. A final one with myself.
Yeah, final.
Yep.
Then back to you again for the final call.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, we're not that big, so I like to definitely be part of that process.
Yeah, of course.
And the other part is, the two other guys, they're the ones that are going to be working with that software developer.
Yeah.
So it's really important that they're on board with that person as well.
Yeah, fantastic. How quickly does that happen?
It can happen within a fortnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times, like a fortnight.
Yeah. Usually, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Okay, and we had a good conversation about what happened in COVID. So being affected as a growing business, software consulting, got hit pretty hard, then got surged pretty massively, right?
Yeah.
So what was the strategy that allowed you guys to not only survive that period, but sounds like you guys were thriving. So
yeah, we definitely recruited we assembled the advisory team when COVID hit, and we were like, okay, we need a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. Our biggest thing was to retain all our clients. So how do we help them adjust? Our success comes from our customer success. So we really need to understand where is their business, how is COVID going to affect their business. What strategies and tactics can we implement for can we advise them or give them feedback to help them navigate through COVID? Then the other part was our staff. So it was retaining clients and retaining staff.
Yeah.
So it was like, what are we going to do to make sure that, everyone feels comfortable, that, giving them the assurity. So as a business owner, we always have at least a 12-month runway. So what that means is if we had no clients for 12 months, we could survive.
How are you going to keep the lights on? Yep.
So that, that's always really important. It's probably the reason why we haven't been so aggressive on growth.
Yeah.
It's more around sustainability and making sure that, because when you first start, it's just you and you're like, I can take all these risks. And then I think as a business owner, when you hire someone that has a family, you're like, okay, I need to take business a little bit more seriously because now, we're looking after other people's families.
Yep.
So that's really important. So it's all about retention. And then, a good example was we had a startup that was that's in the hospitality space. And, they had like a 3-6 month product roadmap, project roadmap, and then go to market strategy and all that kind of jazz. Then COVID hit and it was like, whoa, this product might not be very relevant right now. And RSLs and clubs and pubs were all closing down and they were taking some of that time to renovate and whatnot. And so we kind of went, what can we do? And the government mandated that it was like 3 things. It was like buzzers, cutlery, and menus were no longer allowed to be handed out. So the cutlery had to be like plastic or disposable. So it was like disposable cutlery. So we thought, okay, well, rather than building out this massive product, how do we get rid of buzzers and menus for all of these venues as quickly as possible? So rather than looking at a 6-month roadmap, we dialed it down to like 6 weeks. The founder was able to go and pitch to all of these different RSLs and say, well, if you use us, we can integrate with your POS system and you don't need to use your buzzers. And then on top of that, you can upload your menu and and people can use their phone. So he was able to really onboard a whole bunch of venues very quickly because of that. And then after that, we turned it from this hard-coded menu to a dynamic one that you could then purchase from at a later date. But at least at the start, he was able to pitch to them something that solved their problem, and then was able to win that business and get it going.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounded like you had the foresight or the understanding to be super flexible in your delivery options for your customers.
I think another really big thing for our startups that we work with is that if they did get hit and they couldn't afford to do any work with us, that if they went in-house, they probably would have had to let those people go. Where we were able to deploy those people onto other startups that were doing quite well. Yeah. And then 12 months later, when things kind of settled and those other startups were back in business, we didn't lose that knowledge. Like we managed to retain it. So being able to use us almost as a tap to be able to say, well, hey, my business is taking a hit. I'm going to have to dial it down. And then when your business is doing well, I need to dial it up, and we're able to do that for you. I think is a really big value proposition that we have. So
but how are we able to do that? With deploying people to different.
So
clients?
let's say we had at the time, if we had a dozen software developers, rather than so some startups like that hospitality one started to take off, and we were able to put some of the people that were working on other projects that had to be paused onto the ones that were doing well. And then when those startups came back and are now doing well, we were able to put some of those resources back onto those.
But it sounded like you were able to do that because instead of focusing on during this time on growing your own business, you were able to just focus on maintaining the people in there.
And the retention piece internally was also because I just felt like there was a lot of unknown. I think people were really bullish, and we tend to go against the grain. So for us, we saw everyone having these massive growth strategies, government giving out all this money. And we thought this is all going to catch up to us at some stage. So let's not get overzealous and do some stuff that we might regret. Let's just focus on what we're doing. And in that 2-3 year period, we really focused on efficiency. So what used to take us 6 months, we can now do in 3 months or 2 months. Right. And I feel like that's those efficiency pieces and baseline and reinvesting in baseline was a really big driving factor for us to be, to focus on profitability rather than just, revenue.
Just hyper growth.
Yeah. And now we're in a really fortunate position where, many people that, many of those high growth companies tried to poach a lot of our staff. Yeah. We're lucky enough that, no one left. And now, many of those high growth companies that were trying to poach our staff are letting people go. Yeah. And I think people in our team can see that, so they, what if that was me? What if I went there and then.
And usually that's the case when it's a sort of last in, first out sort of thing. Yeah.
So I think, that's been really important. And now that the economy's got this unknown and we're moving to more unknown territory, I think, as companies have dialed things down, we're looking to dial things up. So for us, rather than doubling in size every year, we worked out if we want to double in size in the next 3 years, that's like a compound of, I think it was 20% year on year or something, 30%. So that's really achievable for us. Yep. So we just rather take that steadily. And go from there.
Yeah, I think it's super important, particularly when you're, have such a core value proposition of being able to create that talent density internally, provide such a good service to your clients that you don't get overzealous with hiring and in turn scaling the business. And for some businesses that may work when you dedicate on a particular product, but when you do have that I guess value prop, what you just said, where you can deploy services to clients when needed, you've got to be sure you've got people there readily available, and you've got to be sure you've got the work for the people as well. So totally. You've got to balance that. So I guess it's kind of a balancing act of a founder of a tech consulting company, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think on that, like baseline has really helped because, when you've got, let's say a dozen software developers, they're not all specializing in different things. We can move people across different projects because the tech stack is the same and the language is the same front to back.
Yeah, sure.
Compared to back in the day where, if you had someone that was specializing in a mobile app and that's all they did, but, a client's focus was, the web portal, that person, it wasn't as transferable.
Yep.
So, I think that also played a really key factor for us.
Yeah, by picking and sticking with JavaScript, you got a lot more use. You can have like people who are, really good back-end Node, but they can play around with React if your front-end dev was sick that day or something like that. Yeah.
Even if they don't specialize in it, they can still do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important from a business owner or a founder's perspective is that, sometimes you need things to get done. And it allows for that.
Yeah, cool. You recently become a dad.
Yes.
What's being a dad taught you about, running a business?
Yeah, the other part is let's be real, right?
Yeah.
So that retention strategy was also because we had more work. We were oversubscribed.
Okay.
So 2 years ago when I had the little one, I was like, I could go and try and grow this company, or I could just enjoy being a dad.
Yeah.
No one needs me. I was able to take 4 months off.
Yeah.
So I thought, I think I worked pretty hard when I wasn't a dad. And then I thought, I'll take 2 weeks off and then I'm going to be back at it. But I really enjoyed it. And, it was right in the middle of lockdowns. I managed to, just really enjoy that 4 or 5 months. And why I say 4 or 5 months, that was, she came in July and pretty much I dialed back in December, January.
Yeah, man.
And same thing. I was like, we've got so much work. Do I really want to go and hire more people and do this growth strategy stuff, or is it like, no, let's just make sure everyone's happy. Give me the time to spend this time with my daughter, and I think that's been that was really important for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's been great. I take most Wednesdays off, so I do a half day where I spend the day with her, and just being able to work my schedule around that has been really important. And then, taking time off as well. We just went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. We're lucky enough to be in a different area to Maui, but we had a really, really good time. And, we might be doing another 3 or 4 weeks in Miami next month.
Yeah, right.
So being able to, to take time off and enjoy it with my daughter, I think is really, really important.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, I would love to have taken 4 months off. That would have been fantastic. Yeah. I had a month though. That was good. Yeah. I was so grateful for that. And to be able to spend that, you never get that back, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's what I've learned about being a dad. And for me particularly, when I wake up till I drop my son off to daycare and I just don't look at my phone.
Yeah.
And then when I get home, or if I'm working from home from 5:30, quarter to 6, depending on what it is, I just don't look at my phone until the kids go to bed, which is around 8 o'clock. So that just allows me to just go from work mode to dad mode. And that phone, it's great. I love it. But it's it's the ultimate distraction. And I find if I do have it at the dinner table or something like that, it'll just creep into it. So I'll just leave it in the other room. That's just the only way I can do it, and just dedicate that time to them. Yeah.
And also I think selfishly, this new office as well, I kind of sat down and looked at my schedule and thought, how do I optimize it? So I get up pretty early, go to the gym or go for a bike ride or whatever. And then I come home and then, you get dressed, have a shower, get back in. And I feel like I lose a lot of time. So I was really looking at my schedule and saying, it'd be really awesome if I could go to the gym and then, almost, at 6 a.m. and then start my day around 7 and then be able to dial off at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. And so that's where, with this property, looking at something that was near the gym or has a gym, being able to have the facilities to, go have a shower and start the day really early. And, as most business owners would know, sometimes that's the most productive time is, when you've got that 1 hour before everyone starts emailing and messaging and calling. So how do I optimize that to 2 hours, where I'm in there from 7 and no one bothers you till 9?
Yep.
But then also being able to go, cool. I might have missed the morning with my daughter, but at 2 o'clock, I'll clock off and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then if I have to, I'll clock back in at 8 p.m. for an hour or two.
Yeah. Log it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, you've got I've got the opposite problem. Like I've got to do the morning routine.
Yeah.
But man, I do. Yeah, I think now my little one is like 8 months, so getting a bit more sleep at the moment, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to actually just maybe I'm getting up around 6, but probably getting up around 5:30 and getting that hour to just work out and have to myself. I love working out in the morning.
Yes.
This is the best.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it highly enough to anybody. Sense of accomplishment. You just come at the day with endorphins. I think you're a lot more present with everything as well, and less grumpy.
Yeah. I feel like I need to exert energy before I start the day, so I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, no, we weren't made to be sitting at desks in front of a computer all day. That's for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Look, I'd like to finish up with a few sort of quick fire questions.
Cool.
About that I sort of ask everyone, right? 3 questions. I hope you haven't heard this before, but we'll start with the first one. Who do you think is the most influential person in your career and why?
Probably my mum and dad.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll lump them in as a person.
I don't know how your mom feel about. I met her in LA. Lovely person, by the way. But
yeah. I think they both have a lot of strengths, and I think if you can draw towards their strengths, learn from their weaknesses. I think that's really important. There's obviously people like Richard Branson or Elon Musk. Elon Musk is almost unhuman.
Cyborg. He's a cybernetic organism sent back in time to transform the automotive industry and the space industry and the social network industry.
So I think they're the two spectrums. I think from growing up, you always watch what your parents are doing and how they do things, and I think watching them run their own business. I think that's definitely rubbed off. And then I think equally as much when you see what Elon's doing and whatnot, I think it definitely humbles you and allows you to kind of go, maybe I should be thinking a little bit bigger.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite book and why?
I really liked 0 to 1.
What's that?
So Peter Thiel.
I don't know.
It was all you said one book, but the other one I guess is the 7 Habits of Effective People.
Oh yeah,
Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
I think they're really good. Yeah, 0 to 1's really interesting. Like,
what's your favorite habit?
That's really tough. It's funny when we do planning and design phase, I always say, start with the end in mind.
Yep.
So
nice.
That's always a big, so all of those habits come out, sharpen the saw, when it comes to taking time off. I think that's really important. I definitely think there's things in that book that, it's like just the law of being proactive.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Just kind of like, what's in your control, focus on that. And it's like same thing like with COVID, when that hit, it was like, what's in our control? Mm-hmm. So we can help the startups.
Sphere of influence.
Yeah. So I think that from like a personal journey has been really important. And then from like understanding how tech is built and more how products are built and what you should look for. I think 0 to 1 was really good. So Peter Thiel was PayPal with Elon Musk.
Okay,
and,
sure.
He's done some really phenomenal things. And and that book's just all around, just what was really interesting was like, he says things like disruption is not great. So don't be someone that, hey, I'm going to build this tech to be disruptive.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's like, build it so that way you become a monopoly. So a monopoly means that everyone should use you.
Yeah.
So
okay.
don't draw a line in the sand and say you're either with us or against us. Figure out how everyone can use what you're building.
Oh yeah.
That's what you want to be. And
fantastic.
I think with Baseline and what we do, that's always been at the core as well with Devika is that, some agencies might say, oh, we do the planning and we do the design and we do the dev and we don't work with other agencies. And I think we never really draw a line in the sand. We always said, if you want to do the planning and design somewhere else, that's cool. And through that, you know, we have a really good relationship with a bunch of design studios.
Yep.
And we work really closely with them. And I think that's allowed us to gain market share rather than be a threat to them. And I think that's really important when it comes to relationships and partnerships.
So you don't have the design in-house.
We do.
Okay, you do.
But
well.
we never put a design agency under threat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's
so
always
that
like
ended up being like almost acting as a referral business.
Yeah,
well,
and they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have like an affiliate program,
Yeah.
and in some cases, if a client comes to us and we think that one of the design studios will do a better job than what we will, we'll use that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're at heart, we're still techies. So I don't think I don't think anyone can build tech better than we can.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But I won't go on the record and say that. But, but in these other aspects, I think it's really, partners and are really important.
Yep.
And being able to work with design agencies and all that kind of jazz has been really important. Or, with our ventures program as well, we work really closely with other VCs.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to explain where's our value proposition and where, we don't overlap and why we don't overlap. And then that way, when the time's right, we might co-invest in something. And then when the time's right, we can actually introduce that startup to other VCs.
Yep.
So if we get in really early, we work with others that get in later and we can help drive that success and hand it over to another VC and co-invest. And I think with Baseline, it was the same thing too. It was like, how do we build a product that is not just being used at Devika, that anyone can use, that makes, we have an opinion on what we think it is, and how do we get it out there and get every new digital product being built on Baseline.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. And so you attribute a lot of what 0 to 1,
Yeah.
Peter Thiel says in that,
Yeah.
to the success there.
Yeah.
And that mindset of not being disruptive,
Yes.
but look at being a monopoly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I haven't heard that. I
Yeah.
haven't heard that book, so I'm
Yeah.
definitely, I'm keen. I'm so keen for always good book recommendations. All right. Now, actually, speaking of habits, what habits do you contribute to your success as a technical leader?
I think knowing the difference as a business owner, like what's the difference between dedication and discipline? I think, people are really big to kind of go, I worked 12 hours, I'm really dedicated, but there's an art of being very disciplined in what we do. And I think being able to start and finish things, there's the other saying, our outcomes over output,
Mm-hmm.
Being very outcomes driven. So having, the discipline to kind of see things through. And I think that's really important. Like if you're leading a team and you say, hey, we're going to do A, B, C, and you don't do them,
Yep.
you can get called out by the team pretty quickly, or people become unmotivated. So I think if you say something, you should mean it. And we don't prioritize 20 things. We tend to only have 3 or 4 things that are really important.
Yep.
that we don't move on until we get them done.
Yep.
Which sometimes might frustrate other people because they're waiting for those things to get done before we can move on.
Mm-hmm.
But once we move on, we're very rapid. Like when we're doing something, we go all in on it, and we see it through. And
Yep.
I think that's really important in how we operate the business, and I think it's really important in how we even build digital products. Like we don't just do it willy-nilly. Like when a contract gets signed and a deposit gets made, that team gets assembled and we see it through till the end. We don't start other projects, and that might frustrate some clients that want to start today. They might have to wait until a product gets finished before they can jump in. But on the flip side, we wouldn't do it to them.
Yep.
So that's I think that discipline is really important. Being true to what you start and finish, and having the discipline to see those things through, I think is really, really important. And I think that's been at the core of probably our success.
Yeah. I love it. So discipline versus dedication,
Yeah.
and then being outcomes focused as opposed to output
Yeah.
focused. Yeah. No, I love it so much. You just you kind of reminded me just then of I want to say it's Warren Buffett's sort of principle where he's like, write down the most 20 things that are most important to your life. Write them down, then go through it again and again, circle the top 5, then throw everything else out and focus on them.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, something
And then
I've
do it again once you've done the top 5.
Yeah, something I've learned probably in the last 12 months is, the word non-negotiables. So like, just being able to go into situations and going, these are my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're not negotiating on. So like that allows us to stay on track rather than everything being negotiable all of the time.
Yeah,
It's like,
fantastic.
No, we've set, this is what we're doing. We're going to see it through. And this conversation is really a non-negotiable. So let's move on.
Yep. No, I love it.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Ken, no, thanks so much for coming on board, mate.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. It's been great. We're starting to sweat here, so I think we'll have to call it.